Hey everybody, Jam Creates here. Got another drive time video. I hope this car doesn't kill my audio too badly. I'm still borrowing a car after my other car got wrecked. Hopefully I'll get a new car soon. I gotta figure out what I can afford and what I want to spend and what I'm gonna get. But hopefully whatever I get will be a little quieter than this guy. But anyway, driving home and thinking about something. I was thinking about, I don't know why I turned to Australian for a second there. No, I was thinking about, in my review, I posted yesterday, my review of Legends of Log, and I talked about something that I realized maybe not everybody knows about this. I'm not sure. But, essentially, my point for this video is, what happened to punk rock comics? And when I say punk rock comics, what I mean by that is not necessarily comics with, people with green mohawks and wearing studded, spikes, bracelets and stuff. And Doc Martens. No, what I mean is punk rock. When I say punk rock comics, there was a time years ago when, before the advent of desktop, I shouldn't even call that, before the demand before the invention of on-demand printing and, printing overseas that you could do online and you could send files and all this stuff. There was no online. This is pre-internet days. If you wanted to put out your own comic book, there was a couple of choices you had. You really didn't have many choices, but your choices were limited to find one of the few indie publishers out there and get them to publish your book, which isn't really self-publishing, or foot the bill at a local printer. In other words, go to a print shop in your neighborhood, somewhere nearby where you live, and bring them the originals and let them essentially make pretty photocopies, obviously better quality than you would get from just using the photocopier at the library, but let them print out your issues, your book for you, and then you had to figure out what the heck to do with it. You could go to your local comic shop and see if they would carry it for you, or even just give it away for you. Maybe go to the local stationery store, candy store, something like that, see if they would do it. There's a lot of legwork, a lot of hustle, and it was generally just going to be local. Your other option was to literally go somewhere that had a copy machine and photocopy your art, photocopy your pages, and then just, staple them together yourself, and then maybe use a little better quality paper for the cover or something. Color copies weren't even really a thing back then. So, but what those things were was there were these crazy, people who would just make whatever they wanted. They would just make their own book, their own comic, and then just pretty much just hand them out. They were free. You weren't going to pay for them. They were going to be free. But it was this crazy spirit of, punk rock, garage band style. I'm going to make this, and I don't care what anybody thinks. It's going to be my thing, and I'm going to put it out there and see if anyone likes it. And I don't know what people really expected to happen from it. But there was some of that out there, and the other thing is what you got from that was sometimes you had really, really small publishers who would put out these funky, punk rock, what you would call, punk rock comics. They were, punk comics. They weren't mainstream stuff. Most of the time they were black and white. They were usually from really small independent publishers. I mean, hell, the Ninja Turtles started out that way. You know, the Ninja Turtles were, you know, Eastman and Laird got together and started Mirage Studios and just put that sucker out, you know, pretty much on their own. There was another book, and most of the books, the thing about these books were, most of them were more violent than you would get from Marvel or DC. They would be a little bit more explicit in terms of language. You would actually see books with curses in them. And you would see books with, you know, a lot, like I said, more gory, more violent. I remember one book that I used to, actually, I really liked it, actually, and I used to pick it. I picked up quite a few issues. It was called Thrash. It was about a skateboarder. Like, clearly the whole thing was made by people who like skateboarding, because every story in it involved something to do with skateboarding. But the main focus was this character named Thrash, who was essentially, he was just a superhero on a skateboard. And he wore like a skull mask, and a black suit, and he had, like, you know, boots and spikes and stuff, and like he looked, you know, typical what you would think for at the time. But the book was actually, I mean, the art was actually pretty good from what I remember, and the stories I honestly couldn't tell you because it was so long ago. I would have to dig through my boxes and try and find them. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll dig through some of my boxes and see if I can find my old issues of Thrash. And they used to have backup stories in them too, and the backup stories were all weird and, you know, also violent. But it was just like this weird thing, and I remember as a kid finding it and being like, I don't even know what this is. I never heard of this. Like, what is this? It's black and white, and it's like violent, and they curse in it, and it's not from Marvel, and it's not from DC, and I don't even know who this is who's making this, because this is pre-image and everything. I'm going way back on this one. But I remember thinking, like, this is so cool. I'm reading this book that has curses in it. Like, it was like this naughty, forbidden type deal, that I felt like I was getting away with something by buying and reading, because most people weren't paying attention to what comic books you were reading. Like, they just assumed, like, all comic books are just, you know, Spider-Man, Batman, Superman. They're fine, whatever. So, like, you know, you used to get these, like, punk rock, violent comics sometimes from time to time. And it was just a cool thing. And I feel like, in a way, you know, we definitely had lost that for a good long while. And I do think if you're looking for that now, you could find some of that in the webcomic space. Only because there's really no regulation on that stuff at all. Like, I mean, you could make a webcomic literally about anything, and no one's going to say anything. Like, you're not going to get, you know, there is no authority who's going to go out there and tell you this is no good. Like, even the platform holders, they have rules, but I mean, let's be honest, a lot of the stuff on there, it's pretty different. So I don't know if you've ever checked out webcomics. There's definitely there's some good stuff out there. There's a lot of crap, to be blunt. There's a lot of really bad art and a lot of really bad storytelling. So when you find a good one, it's nice to see. But I guess that's the closest thing to it, because you just don't get printed stuff anymore. And the only other place where I see, like, punk rock comics kind of happening is in the indie, like, crowdfunding space. When I look at something like, let's say, the funny thing is they have sort of this punk rock vibe and whatnot to them, but they also have a more professional look to them now. Like, when I look at something like Earthbound, let's say, right now, that's an Indiegogo book. I believe you can still get it. I believe you can still get at least, I know he's doing a hardcover one. I think you can still get that one. I don't think you can still get the regular one. I believe that was closed out already. But it's by a guy named Narwhal, and the art is insane. This guy's art is so cool, and it's so different from anything else out there. And my understanding from the story is that the story is going to be pretty violent and pretty weird and a little scary and stuff. And that's cool. I feel like he's bringing that back. Like, there's other stuff out there. There's things like Deathsworn, which looks like that's going to have that same sort of punk rock attitude. So I don't know. I mean, there's definitely some stuff out there. I like that the spirit of that is coming back. And I get that those books are not going to be for everyone. Not everyone wants, like, overly violent books. Not everyone wants that sort of feel, that, like, grindhouse kind of down and dirty sort of feel to their stuff. Like, I get that. Not everyone wants that. And there's books out there, you know, obviously for you if you want a more professional look, clearly. I mean, because you've got long-time pros doing books out there too, which is cool. But it's just fun to see these, like, you know, out of nowhere guy's first ever book, or, you know, first or second book, and he's doing these, like, amazing art, and it's super cool, and it's this crazy story, and you're wondering, like, where did this come from? You know, that's the cool thing. Like, there was nothing cooler to me as a kid than just, like, looking at a shelf of comic books in a store somewhere and seeing this weird comic that wasn't from Marvel and wasn't from DC, and it was just something like, what is this? Where did this come from? You know, like, what bizarre comic book entity put this on the shelf? And how did it happen to find its way here? Like, that was the kind of stuff that was super cool. And I feel like we're starting to get that again now with the crowdfunding craze in comic books. You know, yes, you've got lots of established pros that are out there making professional quality books in terms of art and presentation and everything else. And then you've got some others that are definitely a little more rough around the edges. And I like that. I think that's fun. So anyway, I don't know. Tell me if you think it's kind of a ramble. But if you understand what I'm saying, you know, please let me know in the comments. Hopefully I actually made some sense when I was talking. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you understand, if you remember, if you have any memories of these weird, like, where did this book come from moments that you had as a kid, let me know for sure. I want to hear about it in the comments, absolutely. See if I've ever seen those books myself. I do remember getting literally a photocopied ash can with all these different characters in it that this guy was trying to promote. And I remember thinking even at the time, and I'm not an egomaniac by any means, but I remember even at the time looking at his art and going, like, holy crud, I'm better than this guy. And this guy is, like, trying to actually publish his own stuff. And I definitely am a better artist than this guy, which I don't usually think about very many people, because I have that general... that artist's mentality of I'm not good enough, I'm never good enough, my art's never good enough, which seems to afflict lots and lots of artists out there. But anyway, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do. We would love to have you. And feel free to comment, please. I almost always respond to every single comment. Unless there's really nothing to say. Like, I mean, if you just say, like, something that doesn't make any sense, I'm probably not going to respond to it, but I probably will still heart it. You know, I'll still love it. So you understand. So I do that just so you know that I read it. I generally do that to every comment on my videos, just so people know, like, just so people know, like, oh, he read it. Okay, cool. So anyway, that's it. I will talk to you guys soon. I'm hoping to do another live stream sometime soon. Probably not on Saturday. But who knows? We'll see what happens. I will try and let you guys know in advance. Although, you never know. I might just pop on one day. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace out.